Welcome to In Focus, Texas, where we take an in-depth look at the issues that matter to you. I'm your host, Carla Leal. The southern border is one of the most diverse areas in the U.S. The Lone Star State and Mexico share nearly 1,300 miles of common border, with 32 Texas counties residing along the Rio Grande, from El Paso all the way to South Padre Island. About 10% of Texas's population lives within this area, with a majority of these residents identifying as Hispanic. Well, the southern border also plays an important part in our state's economic growth, with Mexico being named Texas' top trading partner for imports and exports. On this show, we'll explore the intricacies of Texans' life at the border. Something that's attracting more people to the Rio Grande Valley is the expansion of SpaceX. And as Adolfo Muñiz shows us, Texans in Brownsville have diverse opinions on the corporation's impact to the community.
It is a matter of fact. SpaceX is here.
Liftoff.
This giant company has become an integral part of Brownsville, and cosmic expectations are placed in it. For locals like David and his family who like to eat lunch at this traditional spot, Brownsville is already changing thanks to the SpaceX factor.
They're getting bigger, they're growing, more businesses are opening up, so businesses are always open, better, especially for the city of Brownsville. So.
SpaceX opened Starbase launch facility in 2019 in Boca Chica Beach, with 98% of the workforce being local. But SpaceX since then has meant more than that, creating job opportunities as a result of the investments that have occurred in the area.
About almost half of $1 billion in investment in and around Brownsville, Cameron County as a result of SpaceX being here.
And new generations are actually excited about it. Students like Gabby, who works at a business center, eBridge, open through SpaceX money.
It is changing, we're growing big. I mean, you've seen tons of new businesses that they've been opening here downtown.
But is that really what's going on? According to the city government, that and even more. Revitalization is laying results.
And many of them are actually independent or mom and pop restaurants. So we're seeing around town at least $18 million worth of investment.
With all this, David and Gabby are happy that the standard of living is getting higher and that Brownsville, one day they dream, will be a big city where some historical problems will be gone and the best of its history preserved.
The poverty out there is, I believe, in my opinion, is way more, is bigger out there. The valley is changing for the better and one step at a time.
Yeah, we might change, and we need growth. I mean, we need that, to create more jobs, to bring in people, but I still think, the people that are here, I mean, we're gonna stay the same, you know?
Someone who's experiencing the growth of South Texas firsthand is a lifetime resident of the area and the representative of our state's 34th Congressional District, Congressman Vicente Gonzalez, who joins me from D.C. Congressman Gonzalez, welcome to In Focus, Texas. We just saw an example of the opportunities that corporations like SpaceX are creating around Brownsville. How are South Texans preparing to meet that future workforce demand for space exploration in that region?
Great question. So it's obviously fascinating. It's some amazing things that are happening here in the region. And companies like SpaceX are working hand in hand with UT-RGV and with Southmost Community College and STC and TSTC here to prepare future generations of space workers.
How is the federal government addressing District 34's population growth?
Our district is where the border meets the coast, and it's from McAllen, Texas, along the border all the way to the Padre Island, Brownsville region, and then up the coast to right south of Corpus Christi. And the federal government has been very supportive. Obviously, with a recent bipartisan infrastructure bill that we passed, there is several billions of dollars coming down to my district alone to invest in bridges, in ports, in obviously drainage systems, better highways.
Tell us, what type of partnerships do you have with our neighbors across the border, and how do Texans benefit from these binational initiatives?
Billions of dollars of trade come across the bridges in my district every single day that create direct and indirect jobs in both countries. We have good relationships generally with Mexico, with state and federal governments. Obviously, we also have our differences, right? And we have that type of relationship that we sit at the table and speak honestly to each other when we have complications. But in terms of them being good neighbors, they're our second largest trading partner. Our economy relies on border trade and relies on our neighbors to the south.
Earlier this year, President Biden visited the Texas-Mexico border, and he did not stop by your district, but you are our direct connection to him. What proposals are you taking to him and your colleagues to address our immigration system and the challenges it creates along the Texas border?
I joined him on that trip, and that we visited El Paso. And what I have been proposing is a bill called the Safe Zone Act. And I had a long discussion with the president on it. And it's the only real proposal that I've seen on Capitol Hill that can help calm our borders and bring peace and normality of what we've seen in the past few years. What the Safe Zone Act does, it creates a safe zone on the border of Guatemala and Mexico, which would be our first pilot program, where migrants who are trying to come to our southern border under this law must check in and register at that place and ask for asylum at that. And if they were to show up to our southern border without having checked into one of these safe zones, then under the law, they could be immediately removed. That would do several things. It would take the pressure off our southern border and allow Border Patrol and law enforcement to do what they've been trained to do, and it would prevent people from having to take this 1,500-mile trek, which is very dangerous to our southern border. And most importantly to me, it would stop enriching cartels.
Tell us what makes living in your district so special. Share some of the traditions that take place in South Texas that other Texans might not know about.
We have Charro Days in Brownsville, which is a week of festivities that begins with the famous abrazo on the bridge, where the mayors of both towns and sometimes the governors and leaders of both communities meet each other at the center of the bridge for a hug and festivities. In Brownsville, it's a big thing. If you haven't attended, I believe you should. I call it the Mardi Gras of the Rio Grande Valley. We're a huge tourist destination because of South Padre Island, and people from all across the country and the state come and visit this region for breaks, especially during spring break, as we had recently. We have a lot of people travel from south of the border also.
Well, there's a lot going on in the South Texas towns, in particular in the border, so we'll have to head over there. Thank you, Congressman Vicente Gonzalez. It's been a pleasure. The international bridge from El Paso to Mexico is causing traffic headaches for those traveling back and forth. Coming up, how officials are working to fix the problem. Welcome back. For Texans along the border, the traffic going to and from Mexico is constant. In El Paso, motorists can spend several hours of their day crossing the international bridge into Juarez. Our Luis Garcia shows us what the city is doing to ease this problem.
This is the lane for one of the international bridges to cross from El Paso to Ciudad Juarez. And most of these people have spent more than 2 hours waiting in line, sometimes more than that. After an exhausting workday, Osvaldo Esparza still has a long way to go home.
I live in Juarez, so I have to go to El Paso to work, and at the end of the work, I have to go back to Juarez. That's my everyday routine.
But in order to get to his house in Juarez, he must wait in line at one of the international bridges.
Like with everything, like line and going back to my house, I would say close to 2 hours, probably, 1 hour and a half.
Also, drivers like Osvaldo must deal with those who want to get in line, which is why the city of El Paso has posted police officers to organize traffic.
I mean, when there's police handling the traffic, I mean, it runs a little better and there's not too much line, because I think the line It's created because all the people that want to, cut in line.
Fortunately for the thousands of drivers who use the international bridges, some solutions are already being planned.
We were granted $32 million for improvements at the Isleta Zaragoza port of entry and the Bridge of the Americas.
The bad news is that these improvements will be ready for another 2 years, so Osvaldo will have to continue waiting a long time on the bridges.
And once I cross, I have another 40 minutes to go home, and that will be, the end of my work day, because I still have to do a lot of stuff over there. So it wasn't that bad today. It was good.
That was our Luis Garcia reporting. The issues those living in South Texas face are sometimes similar. I spoke with Hidalgo County Judge Richard Cortez about the complexities that come with living along the Texas border. Judge Richard Cortez, welcome to In Focus Texas. We just saw an example of what residents of the El Paso Ciudad Juarez border go through to go in and out of the U.S. regularly through our international bridges. Do residents entering and exiting ports of entry in Hidalgo County face similar challenges?
Well, sure. Obviously, the transportation between the United States and Mexico is very heavy here. Many of us that live on this side of the border have families in Mexico and vice versa. So the travel going through our legal ports of entry go from personal, non-business, family to commercial. And a lot of the people that live in Mexico bring their children to school here, believe it or not. Some of them go to private school. So there's a lot of activity in our ports of entry that causes delays sometimes.
Talk to us about the trade that takes place through the Hidalgo County ports of entry, and how does it benefit border Texans and just the state in general?
Well, unfortunately, we were an agrarian community here in Texas. In fact, the United States, we were kind of the breadbasket of the world. Ranching and farming were big industries. Unfortunately, many of our farmers now are having to go to Mexico to do their farming simply because they don't have enough workers to do that. We also have the maquila industry, which helps our automakers in the northern part of the United States by basically helping them lower their costs by blending their costs with some of the costs associated with assembling some of those things in Mexico. So we have a large commerce and trade, as we bring in parts into Mexico, then we have finished goods coming out of Mexico. So that's also a big part of it.
And what are some of the issues that are top of mind for residents of Hidalgo County, and how are you addressing them?
Well, right now, Hidalgo County has many issues. We are the 8th most populous county in Texas out of 254. We're growing. We have to have a system of creating human capital. We know that the jobs of tomorrow are going to be different than the jobs of today. So our biggest challenge is how do we prepare ourselves for the future? How do we train our people, educate our people to be competitive in a hugely, competitive environment?
Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience while we have you, Judge Cortez?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, with this border crisis that people are calling here, and it is a crisis. It's a crisis that we have, but the crisis is that we have Washington unwilling to take a look at comprehensive immigration reform that's causing the problems that we have here. This country has a tremendous need for workers, And we all want them to come here, and we all want our people to come here legally. To me, what I would like the viewers out there is to make sure that you study the situation, you confirm what I just said, And if you agree with me, and you'll be agreeing with a lot of economists, let's ask Congress to help us solve this border problem by changing the laws to make it easier to bring people that we want to bring here and make it harder for people that we don't want to come here for them to be able to come here.
Josh Cortez, thank you for spending some time with us. It's been an honor.
It's been my pleasure. Have a nice day.
Lots of insight from Judge Cortez. Well, as big cities are attracting jobs in tech, South Texas is bringing up the startups. Next, we'll tell you about a project that's keeping talent in the valley. Stay with us. The issues that matter the most for Texans living along our border are complex, and our team of journalists covering our southern border knows this well. Luis Garcia is our El Paso Bureau reporter, and he joins me in our studios. Luis, welcome to In Focus, Texas.
Thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure always to be here.
Well, your coverage of the border in the Lone Star State is extensive. What are some of the issues that the El Pasoans are bringing to your attention, and how are they being addressed?
Well, right now, public safety. El Paso has been ranked as one of the safest cities in the United States for some years. But with what happened at the Walmart store 3 years ago and what happened at the Cielo Vista Mall just a month ago, that makes the people think like, are we really in a safe city? So that kind of issue is what most of the people are concerning right now, because we have this anxiety of thinking that a shooting could happen anytime again. Also, access to medical help, access to abortion, and the other one, access to cannabis. A lot of El Pasoans are getting that on New Mexico going over there, and for sure there's also the immigration issue.
Yes, well, there's been a surge of migrants that are arriving to cities like El Paso. So how has the Texas border in your area and in other border towns that you've covered changed in recent years?
I dare to say that the Texans border cities have not changed at all, because immigration has been a part of our lives for years. What have changed have been the laws, the immigration laws, and that is why we have seen now this border wall that it's been for like almost 2 decades. It's not fulfilling its purpose, that is preventing migrants to come. They keep coming.
I know that you've also interviewed numerous migrants and followed them to places like New York. So what have you learned from them and their motivations to leave everything behind and search for their American dream?
Yeah, I think it's very easy for us to judge them and to judge why are they coming to the United States. It's so easy for us to blame them for the mess that they are causing in the border cities like El Paso. And I also think that it's fair for us to complain why the government, why the city is spending millions of dollars helping them. But it is when you hear the stories, how their country is, how they were living in poverty, how their government took everything from them. That is the time when you realize, probably if you were in their shoes, you will do the same. So that's what I have learned from them, the pain and the struggle that they have been taking.
Well, we thank you for stopping by In Focus, Texas, and for bringing us so many impactful stories from both sides of the border.
Thank you.
Big Texas cities have no problem attracting top talent, but as South Texas continues to grow, business leaders in the Rio Grande Valley are taking steps to propel startups along the Texas border. John Salazar shows us how.
So AI You know how they do the AI imagery?
Retaining local talent like Edgar Novato is what eBridge plans for the future.
And then I make it into a video, and then I add it to content.
Novato co-owns a startup video production company.
We do a lot of things.
Like still photography and operating a podcast studio, among other things.
We also help production companies that come into town and shoot big projects like movies.
Keeping and attracting people of all backgrounds is why Brownsville's business movers and shakers built this modern high-tech startup incubator and resource hub.
So we have a U.S. Patent Trade Resource Center kiosk.
This is Nathan Burkhart with the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation, or BCIC. He gave me a sneak peek of the soon-to-open new business incubator hub.
It's the largest startup incubator and entrepreneurial resource center of its kind in the Rio Grande Valley.
When last-minute touch-ups are complete and eBridge opens its doors to the next generation of innovators, these fresh new digs come equipped with community-shared workspace, private offices, training rooms, and even a Department of Defense Tier 1 certified private server data center.
So all the same resources that Geekdom and those in San Antonio or Capital Factory in Austin or the Ion in Houston provide, we can now provide them here in the Rio Grande Valley.
It's a transformational project.
Community and regional collaborations are key for success.
We have a partnership with UT.
Together, we basically created the concept of eBridge. This office specializes in providing resources to the community.
This is a component from one of our startups from Guadalajara.
An effort pulling talent and ideas from beyond the border.
We've been able to incorporate 9 businesses from Mexico to enter the U.S. market through eBridge through Brownsville already.
Pro camera by moment.
All of this is why Beyond Media plans to keep their startup close to home.
Obviously, the richest man in the world is trying to launch rockets from here. If you add that to this, I'm anticipating this wave of entrepreneurship.
And that'll do it for this week's In Focus Texas. I'm Carla Leal. Thanks for joining us to explore Texans' life at the border. Take care, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel, and for more refreshing stories about your community, click the subscribe button right over here. You can also download our Spectrum News app to get live news coverage, weather alerts, and more wherever you are. And don't forget to tune in to Channel 55 on Dish and DirecTV for live local reporting every single day. We'll see you then.